People talk about all
right, 6 o'clock, we'll get started. The call meeting to order, pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you everybody for joining us for the Tuesday, February 21st, 2023 City Council meetings. We will start by approving or amending the agenda. Is there anything on the agenda that anybody'd like to change tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to table 6.2, the Adopt City employee personnel policy, and potentially move that to next time for a workshop.
Yeah, so I think we talked about this a little bit ahead of time that there's enough questions in the personnel policy that is probably something that we'll deal with tonight. Let's workshop after our next meeting, which will be on March 6th.
Okay. Mark will not be here.
Yep, that's correct. Yep. Yeah, city attorney will be here that night. We've already cleared that, so we'll be in good shape on that piece of it. So, yeah. All right, any other changes?
Like to add 6.5. Take a look at a portable speed limit sign
Okay,
in neighborhoods.
put that at 6.5. Anything else? If nothing else, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Abe.
Seconded.
Thank you, Leroy. A motion and a second to approve the agenda with the two noted changes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Consent agenda. Those items on the council agenda which are considered routine or non-controversial are included as part of the consent agenda. Unless a council member specifically requests that an item on the consent agenda be removed and considered separately, items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion, a second, and a vote. Any item removed from the consent agenda shall be placed at the end of general business. Tonight on the consent agenda, we've got approved resolution supporting an application to the Corridors of Commerce program for the reconstruction of the I-35 and Highway 50 interchange, adopt a salary range for the city administrator position, adopt insurance benefits for full-time city employees, approve final payment for the 2022 microsurfacing project, the 2023 employee cost of living adjustments, the February 6, 2023 city council minutes, changes in the 2023 payroll calendar. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anybody'd like to pull and consider separately?
I'd actually like to talk about the adopted salary range for the city administrator position.
Okay. We will pull that one then and move it to 6.6 under general business.
Okay.
Anything else? Otherwise, I'd take a motion to approve consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
Second.
Leroy. Thank you, Jay. A motion by Leroy, second by Jay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Open forum. The public forum is intended to afford the public an opportunity to address concerns to the council. The public forum will be no longer 30 minutes in length, and each presenter will have no more than 5 minutes to speak. Topics of discussion are restricted to local governmental topics rather than private or political agendas. The council may discuss, but will not take formal action on public forum presentations. Commissioner Wolf, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members, most Commissioner, just a couple things. Chris and I were talking about the Renaissance earlier, and we kind of pushed it to the 21st of May. Waiting for the Renaissance folks to get some contracts signed and a few other things taken care of before we approve things. The reentry house is pretty much a done deal there on Fire Lake, the way it sounds. And then other than that, I think that's all. The water bottling plant, still waiting for the DNR. I don't know if they've got that yet, but from what I hear, if they deny them a permit to pump, then they have to deny everybody else from here on out. So, let's see what happens with that, but, that's all I have tonight.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Anybody else for open forum tonight? All right, we will close open forum and move on to general business, 6.1, established position of finance director. Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you are well aware, the city of Cook River is, we're proposing to create a full-time finance director position, bring the township and the city had a part-time treasurer position. At one time it was elected, but that's been appointed now for several years. And looking at the city's need, I think the city's at a position now where it merits full-time. The amount of work that's being done doesn't really allow the current treasurer to get it done in a timely manner. They would allow us to hold off on hiring a part-time clerical position, which is in the budget. And then I think it would also allow more ability to add hours for City Hall, which would improve customer service.
Mark, your microphone.
Thank you for that.
There you go. You good? You got it.
Okay. So that is the rationale for it. We had a work session on January 30th, talk about that. At that point, I reported that we had done a survey of what turned out to be 17 cities in the metro area that are under 10,000 population. The 2022 rate showed the rates being basically from just under $100,000 to about 112,700. Elsewhere on the agenda tonight, there was a cost of living adjustment. We're recommending that that be tagged on to this would be a 2023 rate. If that is the case, then the finance director position range would be from just under 98,000 to 118,378. So that is what is being recommended elsewhere on the agenda tonight. We talked about filling the position, but the first thing we need to do is to have you create that. This would be the city's first full-time position. Questions or comments?
I think we've been
Brent?
working toward it for a long time. And we need to do it. We need to get the work done. There's a lot going on and pretty monumental to have a first full-time employee, but I think we're at that point.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
Yeah.
We already discussed it. So.
Yeah, just the number of transactions coming through from planning and zoning perspective has increased that workload quite a bit. So
What we're looking for tonight is for you to adopt the job description, which was included in the packet, and also the salary range.
okay,
Mr. Mayor, one question.
Yeah.
For the permits that are coming in, how much of the permit fees are gonna cover that? Do they have a guesstimate?
Dominique, how much do we file over right now? From permit fee?
I think last year I allocated 25% of my time to it at per time. So, and Mark, had asked that I start tracking that, so I would allocate that over. So it was 25% of, say, 50 last year.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, if anybody, Brent,
And then I think the CSTS and all the other stuff that you do, that's just a pass through. That's a given on that thing. So
yes, absolutely. We allocate time from the CSTS funding to help when doing the utility billings and all that as well. Yep. Correct. Brent, did you have something?
No, I was going to make a motion to approve the establishment position of finance director.
I'll second.
All right. We got a motion and a second to approve the establishment of the finance director position. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. All right, next up on the agenda, we've got I skipped 6.2, so we're gonna go to 6.3, which is appoint Dominique Hill as the position of finance director. Mark,
Mr. Mayor, as he just took action to create the position, I'm recommending that the current treasurer, Dominique, be appointed to that position. She's been with the city for 6 years. She's more than qualified and is also available full-time, 40 hours per week, so there wouldn't need to be a prorating of salary or benefits. There's a question raised at the workshop, and we did this, a legitimate one. Does the city need to advertise this? I talked to an employment attorney at the Minnesota cities. Well, they said there are certainly reasons why you might want to do that in some time. For example, if you've got an internal candidate who also might be interested in the position, or if you have an affirmative action or EEO policy that the city has that would require it, you should do that. We don't have either of those two at this time, so it really makes not a lot of sense to go through the process of advertising. You've got a very qualified person on staff here. So is there first any question on the recommendation?
council members, any questions?
No.
Okay,
The other part then would be the mechanics, the finances of it. You adopted the salary range. I am recommending that in view of her experience, that she be hired at step 3, which would be $106,130 annually. And that would be effective as of March 1st. That would be her new anniversary date as far as the date of hire. Benefits we've talked about, because you won't be able to really get a good quote until after you get the administrative position hired. Recommending that benefits for this position for insurance purposes be effective as of June 1st. Questions or comments?
That fixes that, the June 1st.
mhm. Yep,
Okay.
then we'll be able to delay until after we hire the administrator. and
Right.
Put that all in one piece.
That's the case, we just need motion authorizing the hiring of.
Brent,
I can make just a couple of comments. Some of us have been fortunate enough to work with Dominique for many years, and she does a great job. Our audits have always been super clean. I think most of us have had the opportunities to see her work with our residents, answering questions from the public. She does a really good job of getting information and taking care of things. She's actually with Karen on vacation. She's taking notes tonight for the minutes, along with Mark. But this is not, but this is not part of the job, but you're still doing it, and we appreciate it. I would like to make a recommendation, and I was also looking over, I don't know if anybody saw this, but she did 193.25 hours in January.
Mhm.
And if you look at that, that comes to $21.29 an hour, which is not a lot of money for a person with an MBA. And for the experience knowing our system and working with our finances. So on any recommendation we would make, I'm very comfortable with, I believe it was step 3, Mark, that you had said.
Yes.
I would like us to seriously consider moving this increase retroactive, as we did with the other pay increases earlier in the consent agenda, to have this increase be effective January 1st of 2023.
How does that fit in with the cost of living that we already did then? Because we did the cost of living based upon the old salary,
Correct.
Part-time.
right,
As part-time,
right.
Yeah.
yeah, so.
I'm not quick enough to do the math and the difference in my head between where we were at.
So the question is, would you effectively hire the salary portion of it as of January 1st and then not do the part-time treasurer retroactive to January 1st?
Yes, that was my intention, that we wouldn't do the part-time treasurer retro to Jan 1. But I mean, 193 hours in January. I don't know what February is going to look like, but I know there's a lot going on. That's, she's been doing the job now for years. And I think it's time that we acknowledge that and make this right for her.
The only thing I have with that is that actually, are we making the date of hire for that position today, or are we making it January 1st?
Well, with the original recommendation was make it March 1st, so it wasn't gonna be today.
Right.
But then if we were to go with Brent's recommendation, we would make that January 1 then.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm wondering if we could maybe, because it would be certainly cleaner to have a
Mhm.
March start date. We could figure out what the difference in pay would have been between full-time and part-time, and maybe authorize that as that would be retroactive. to
Okay.
cover
I'd rather-
the extra hours.
Yeah, I'd rather do that because I'd like to know what the number is before
Yeah.
I approve it.
Yep.
But you know, I don't want to just blindly approve.
Okay, we
That
can put that
change.
on the next council.
Yeah, let's do
We'll
that.
figure
I'd
out.
much rather have that
Okay,
be the process. Yeah, that's why I asked before what the difference was, because it's not just an easy,
Yeah, we're
Change.
voting to spend money.
right?
And
So
that's
we
what
we
needs
should
to-
know what we're
Right.
spending, right?
Right.
100%. Are you okay with that, Brent?
I'm fine with that. I'm trying to determine, because I'm ready to make a motion, but so I would make a motion that we appoint Dominique to the position of finance director effective 3/1 with step 3.
At 106, 130.
Yep, and we would also we
perhaps
will,
direct staff to come back with the financial.
Yeah.
impact.
Mhm.
with the financial impact so that we can consider having the difference between her pay and what this position would be to be in the form of a one-time payment or whatever.
You got all that from the motion?
Did you
Mark?
get all, did you get all that, Dominique? I know you're taking.
It wasn't a lot of pen loading.
I know. But Mark's fingers are moving on the keyboard over there, so
We'll figure something.
plus it's recorded. We can always go back and watch it again,
Okay.
so.
Mayor, I'll second that.
Perfect. So I've got a motion and a second to appoint Dominique Hill as the finance
Mr. Mayor?
director. Yes, Bob.
What about, there also was discussion about benefits as of June 1st, 2023. Is that part of the motion? Or is that something you're going to do as when you determine what benefits you're going to be providing the actual start date?
It probably should be in the motion.
Yeah, we can add that to the motion. You want to add that to your motion?
Sure,
June first date?
absolutely. I'd be happy to add that.
All right, we'll add that to the motion.
Did you
then.
get that?
Mark's got it.
Okay.
All right, we got it. Thanks, Bob. All right, so that's added to the motion for June 1st. So motion and a second to appoint Dominique Hill as the finance director at a salary of 106, 130 beginning March 1st with benefits beginning June 1st. Also directing staff to come back with a recommendation on the difference in pay from the March 1st start date from the January 1st start date as a consideration for a future retroactive pay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Dominique. So real quick, we hired you, you were the second appointed treasurer in the township of Credit River. And that was what,
And Sarah's
what year would-
yours,
Sarah was the first,
November of 26.
2016. Yeah,
Amazing.
time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it?
And we went from elected to appointed in 08.
Mhm.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was on the ballot and then, yeah. Wow,
Mhm.
incredible.
Yeah, you get to that point in 08 when the finances were getting too complex for, for an elected position. And we hired Sarah. And then Sarah left for a full-time job,
Mhm.
and that's when we hired Dominique.
Come a long way from Jenny Dahl with her tablet and pencil.
You can go back and read. all-
Handwriting checks.
The books back there, right?
She did it in council, so she could change things.
Well, Leroy, she'd sit right where Mark was.
Yeah.
When the board table was up there. Yeah,
Yeah,
write the checks, like
Mhm.
15 of them, maybe.
by hand,
Yeah, Yeah.
and record it all in
Yeah.
the ledger.
yeah.
And if you guys want to read the ledgers, they're all back there yet. Interesting, some and some of the stuff that's in those ledgers, by the way. All right, well, thank you, and congratulations, Dominique. Move on to next item, which will be concept plan for the Yellowstone at Credit River. Cindy Nash. If you'd introduce the subject, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If it's okay with you, I'd like to introduce, well, he doesn't need an introduction, but Ted Kowalski to talk about his concept plan. And then if that's okay, he can talk first and then Shane and I can share
Okay.
some comments that we have.
That's fine. Cindy, do you have the stuff that you want to share your screen with, or do you need me to share the screen?
Nope, I have it.
Perfect, thank you.
What meeting didn't go so well with your?
Somebody over at Spring Lake swung at you?
Did a reattack 4 tendons and a bicycle. So I got 7 anchors.
Oh, jeez.
We did it Friday. Yeah, you've done plays and big. Right? At least I didn't get hurt walking on the sidewalk.
Yeah, right?
You want me to write it for you the rest of the winter or?
Thank you, council members, mayor. Congratulations, Dominique Wilson. You're great to work with from our interface with Spring Lake. Like fire contract and stuff, you're a real asset.
So these two sets.
Yeah, things have got one top shape.
Yeah.
This is a set.
Okay, good.
So what we've got.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Bob?
could you ask if the microphone at the podium could be turned on?
It is on.
It's just hard to hear.
Sorry.
Yeah,
So I'm assuming.
That better,
So
Bob?
you got these two.
Yes.
okay, perfect.
Oh, that's my daughter, yeah, she runs with it.
I'm just thinking, oh, look at, yeah.
But she's handing out two of those, the sheets with the yellow and the orange. The one that has less yellow is the plan that was approved with Excelsior Group. And
Yep, looks like a big, that's your
And then
copies.
Tim Arvidsson with Stonebrook Engineering has been working with us, and we've been trying to improve on the plan. I wasn't real happy with it. I love the land, I love the property, I like working in Credit River, I think it's a gorgeous piece of property we can finish. But the way they had their plat, I thought needed some improvement, so Tim Arvidsson with Stonebrook took it upon itself, and that's what came up with the second plan, that groups the smaller lots together. Overall, it's the same number of lots, about up or down by 1. We got rid of some of the substandard lots that were approved, that were acreage lots, that had really wonky building sites, and they kind of had to shoot more in the houses in there. We got rid of those and got rid of some of those lot lines, so those lots will work better. And then what we tried to do is use up the land as it was left by the Excelsior Group and the territory development. They subcut that road. A lot of this down right next to the territories is already kind of graded that way, so you can't really just change and put in acreage lots down here. And the idea also was to. Bill Feltman has the ranch coming in, that's all gonna be big lots over here to the east. On this Moondrop Cove, instead of this being this, cul-de-sac, this kind of different cul-de-sac with these small lots and dragging sewer across the river. We thought we'd just put those into big acreage lots, and it kind of matches in with Bill a little bit better. Enables us to kind of cluster all the smaller lots. Close to the territory. We think it's just looking at it, it looks more like it feels like it makes more sense. Our average lot size is still over 3 acres per lot. So, we haven't got small lots. These ones here, these are actually 2.5 to 3 and 4 acre home sites. The small ones that are more similar to the territory that'll be hooked up to the community system are in here. And that's just kind of because that's how the land was left. Now these we can make too. So we use up about 800 feet less road with this new plan. Mostly just because of this cul-de-sac. So You know, less expense for us, less expense for you guys for snow plowing and road maintenance and rebuilding and things like that. But it hooks a few more houses up to the septic system, which, you know, in us talking about that, and me knowing the history on that, we've been doing this since that all started. We can hook more houses up to the CSTS, thereby driving their cost of operation down. At least that's the math we've been doing with Stonebrook. We need to do more of that work with Stantec and with the MPCA. But instead of just hooking up 25 or 26 houses, this would hook up, I think, 46 or something. 39 on the, and Tim can talk to it. He feels comfortable we can get that to happen in working with Stantec. Nothing's been approved by Stantec or the MPCA yet. The Excelsior Group never brought that application that far forward, which is good, because if they approved it for 25 and now we want to go and change it again, that would make us look silly. They haven't done anything. So now's our opportunity to do that. And Tim can talk about what components need to be added. It isn't very much. A bigger septic tank, a dosing tank, and that kind of is pre-treatment. Yeah, pretty kind of plug and play kind of stuff. So, you know, this is what we were looking at doing. I got questions. I'm here, Tim's here. You know, fire away and happy to take any questions you guys have.
Perfect. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you just stand by, let's get, well, I mean, you can sit down for a second. Let's grab Cindy. I don't know if you had Tim gave his introduction, if you had anything to comment on that.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in your packet, we did provide a set of preliminary comments from our very early review of this project. It's a generally, staff like the layout of how it looks and flows better than the original layout, but it is more complicated than just approving a new layout in this case, because there is history on this site in terms of previous approvals for preliminary plat, an open space plan unit development, the CSTS system, of course, and a number of things that are all tied and related to those features. So our comments are preliminary at this point. There's definitely some more work that we would have to do to figure out what path forward may or may not exist for this. But generally, the comments that we have right now are that they would need to update the preliminary plat for this development. As mentioned, there's an open space design development that was approved back in 2005 as a PUD by Scott County. And these types of developments had a number of requirements that had to be met in order to be approved. And I'm going to go back to the this drawing that shows what is out there right now today for an approval. But one of the big items that was a requirement is that there be open space, and that's characterized on this drawing by this kind of, it's kind of a gray or pink coloration that's along the river just south of Moondrop Cove. Of course, the sketch that is shown doesn't have an open space, any open space provided at all. Typically, what we would do for something like that might be an amendment to a PUD. The difficulty here is going to be figuring out what all of the underlying documentation says in terms of what the requirements were, and then figure out if it's even possible to do an amendment to the open space PUD. There are developments that were kind of grandfathered in the county's ordinance and then in yours as well, but not anything new could be developed because of the need to do this on a CSTS system. So it really kind of, those concepts really relied upon getting these smaller lots, having the CSTS, and then having open space that's permanently provided. And that's why the original territory has sort of that flow and design that you see today, is because of that open space factor. We're also going to have to look at all of the legal documents that were associated with the original development of territory and the establishment of that CSTS system to see if it's possible to change the layout of the plans. If it is possible, if there's any legal documentation that would need to be done, and see what it would take to amend some of those things. One other item that's a little bit larger of concern or that would need to be looked at is that the CSTS system in this, for this neighborhood exists on land that is owned by the territory HOA. Of course, you're the owner of the CSTS system though, so we'll also have to look at all of that documentation to see if what we could or couldn't do in terms of changing any design or number of lots to be connected or anything like that. I think what Ted's looking for tonight is some guidance from all of you as to whether you're interested in him pursuing and looking at and spending the time to go through all of that to figure out if all of those items are possible, how they can be done, et cetera, to get a design that looks more like this instead of the one that was previously approved. I think Ted knows that all this needs to be done, so it's more a matter of just figuring out if it's worth putting in that time. And I can pass it on to Shane if he has anything additional to add.
Nothing additional. I think you covered all the items that I was going to, or I would have brought up. So I'll just wait in case there's any questions.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Shane. Council members, do you have any questions or comments for Ted or staff?
Yeah, I have a
Go ahead, Jay.
couple. Have you contacted the HOA for territories and had any discussion with them at all at this point?
Not yet. If without you guys being on board, there was no reason to ruffle anybody.
Okay, I think, second question. I know that there have been a couple of changes to this from the original territories design.
Oh, yeah.
And so going back to that though, if this is viewed as connecting to them and using that part of that CSTS, there was kind of an open space requirement. And one of the things is that we're kind of changing away from that, from what you're looking at doing. So there's no open, you're using all of the open space.
Not that we
Just a comment. It's just a comment for me. It's not necessarily, I guess I'm not asking a question. I'm just kind of saying that, I guess my question would be, how does that reflect with the original intent for the CSTS system, the open space concept that all of this was done? I know that originally this was all going to be, more of the smaller lots. And that's why I was asking the question was there an additional, back in the past, was there additional green space that should have been part of that? So I do actually like the layout, and I like the fact that you're providing somewhat of a transition towards the is it Yellowstone? Or no, territories, or not territories, the ranches up here.
Terra Farms.
And
over
Terra,
here.
so we're kind of getting a little bit of at least a kind of a buffer of moving to the bigger lots on the other end. I do like the fact that you've kind of got a mix.
Yeah, council member, about congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Got on the first one from this podium who said that to you.
Maybe. Right, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
No, the open space is still open for discussion. We didn't show any on here. Not that we couldn't put it in there. We also have the creek bed, if you you'll see there's a created area that follows
Right.
the waterway. Well, that's a shoreline district. There's a lot of opportunities where it kind of bubbles open and there's kind of a ponding area like where they watered the cattle back in the day. We have a lot of opportunities along there for open space if that's what we all choose. What Excelsior Group gave you for open space, but to be honest,
Was a ditch.
federally mandated open space.
Yeah.
So, and then a lot of the open space that you got from the ranch through, the territories originally, we let them put septic systems on. So is it really open space? Okay, and I agree with you, Councilmember, that the open space was part of that original, that change in design that happened when they, when the county brought forward the open space design.
Mhm.
But that's when the lots were all really small. What we tried really hard to do here is give you that all these lots are 3 acres or bigger. So even though some of them are small, we average 3 acres per lot. So doesn't each lot have its own open space?
Sure. So
That's
the,
a compromise thing that we could, and it's where you guys wanna go, it's your city.
how many of the lots that you actually have are under the 2.5 acres? You see, I know the average is good, but
How many are under?
how many actual of your proposed are actually under the 2.5? Because we do have that minimum kind of flowing out too.
Yeah, good, fair question, we just hadn't calculated that. I think
Okay.
it's about 30, probably around 35 of them that are under. That are under 2.5 acres, yeah.
There's
Um,
25, I think, proposed, 29 proposed previously by the approved layout.
yeah,
Okay, so if you're moving away from the concept, the original concept with that, doesn't that then, that's a question, does that then fall under the required 2.5 acre minimum if we're moving away from that?
well, this one ends up kind of being because of what's here with the territories and the CSTS. If it wasn't the CSS already there, and the fact that it's underutilized,
Right,
we wouldn't be proposing small lots at all.
okay,
But because the territory is there and CSCS is there and it's underutilized, we think we can fit the land better, we can get you more taxpayers. And we can make them operate at a lower monthly fee for everybody by getting it closer to its capacity.
yeah, I guess that's why I was asking if you had actually talked with them at all, because that's, you know, it would be nice to determine how much the other payers are actually saving by us
Doing this.
approving it.
And I don't think it's, I understand what you're saying, but I didn't want to bring it to them because I think it's your prerogative, because you own the CSTS. It operates on ground that's owned by the homeowners association that you have an easement over. It's your system, it's not theirs. Now, what it's gonna affect their monthly bills, absolutely, it's gonna be important to them, they're gonna wanna know that. But I don't know it's their permission to grant, that's what Cindy was alluding to, we gotta look through all that paperwork.
Right.
And figure out how this thing was all built. You know,
Yeah.
that's a fair question, we gotta know, how, can we do this, do we want?
Well,
to do
yeah,
this?
I would want a little bit more of that answered before I make a decision to use somebody else's land.
What we
Yeah.
need to, and I guess what we're looking for here is before we spend a whole bunch of money with the engineer and the attorneys and Ruby figuring out these documents. If the ability is there, you guys like the layout.
I like the layout,
Yeah, good, thank you. That's
Think-
really kind of what we're looking for.
but
Cindy's
I have
right.
those other questions.
Yeah, we have to answer Cindy and Shane's question, no doubt, open
Right.
space, the septic system. But they don't get answered the first day, they get answered now as we move the whole thing forward.
Important to remember, Jay, is that this is the approved preliminary plat. for
Correct.
that neighborhood right now, that the Excelsior Group changed away from what the original concept was way back in.
Oh,
the
I
2000s,
understand
right?
that,
So-
but that's
so
why
this
I
is-
asked, you know,
Right.
what was the history of this? Because it
Mhm.
started out as something different.
Oh, 100%.
And that makes us continuing to modify that.
And we're on
You have
the
to consider the original
third or
intent.
fourth owner of the development since
Right.
that original one was, and,
Right.
you know,
But then,
economic times have changed and
Right.
what the products that people are looking for might have changed as well.
but this is
so-
somewhat of a variance still from the original.
Right,
from the
which is,
original intent.
which goes back to all the comments that Cindy made
Absolutely, yeah.
of
Right.
needing to verify through that some
Yeah.
of those things can be changed.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think my
Yeah.
position based on that is just that I would like to see some things answered. Just additional questions, costs, impacts answered before I really rendered a true opinion.
Yeah, and that, all those things will come up through the process, Jay, and you know, those are the pieces that what Ted's looking for is again, as you said, just if you like the layout, they'll move to the next steps and start researching those pieces that you were asking about.
Yeah. Basement,
One, there's a lot of distance between this concept plan. and
Right.
their Flat,
Yeah,
and that process is what will ferret all those questions out. We may
Mhm.
come up with things we hadn't thought about here today.
yeah,
Oh, we got this issue, oh, we got that, but before I spend money with the attorney, the engineers, of finding all that, I wanna know, okay, I can't go barking up a tree if you guys are not interested at all.
yeah. Brent, questions, thoughts?
I think Counselor Satterback pretty much asked the same questions that Cindy has in her memo there, and they're all good points. I like the design. I think the one thing we need to consider with expansion of that CSTS is, and Ted, I understand that maybe it will lower the cost for all of them. But I'm also thinking that, you know, parts of that system have been in use now for 18 years.
But other parts have only been in use for 2 years.
Yes, absolutely. But if something goes down, the entire subordinate service district pays for it. And I think about, you know, the rates right now at territory are relatively low. $90.
Mhm.
But we have seen with some of the other systems, as we have started to look for replacements, that it has gone up. So while it might go down for everyone, these new folks that would be coming on here could possibly, because, you know, what we have continued to hear from the people in the subordinate service districts are, we don't want to pay ahead for a lot of maintenance, and we have kept those reserves down. Trying to listen to the residents, but it's possible that if we have something that needs to be done there, the rates could actually go up and these homeowners could see some substantial rate increases. So I think one of the questions would be too, is maybe we need to check with our operator and find out what they think is going to be, you know, could this mean with the additions, would this start making that system work harder and we'd be in a replacement situation earlier than we thought? Because this, well, when this was the town board, I think we pretty much said a number of times that we wouldn't approve another CSTS system. Maybe now the 5 of us would take a different approach, but so just a comment, it may not be low, it might be higher.
Well, that, I mean, that
I
brings.
don't know that we're approving an additional CSTS. This is a, you know, a continuation of one that was already
Absolutely,
built
I
out, right?
understand
And
that,
that's just a
but I'm
big
still
difference there,
saying that these rates that these homeowners are paying in some cases are getting quite high in Credit
Mhm.
River. We could run into the same situation here.
but yeah, again, you know, always need to do that exercise and model it out 100%.
So that would be one of my,
Most of the ones
concerns.
that we have financial problems in are the ones that have, you know, 15 to 25 homes in them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, there's one other thing to consider, and I guess I'm just kind of looking at going back the CSTS systems. Part of the fact was that you had that open space that you could have additional legs, additional drain fields. If this sewer system, this private or this CSTS system for these, all of these plus territories is actually considered a permanent solution.
Mhm.
It's not that there's going to be something coming in there if there's a failure, a total failure of the system. So I guess my question would be, is there, going back to looking at how this was originally designed, was there green space in that or open space in the original design that also could have been used as spare, say 50 years from now to cover a system? Whereas right now we're going to subdivide this into private systems. Most of the larger lots have no issues because they'll have plenty of room for further legs.
Yeah, Councilmember, Mr. Mayor Tim Arvidsson with Stumbrick Engineering. So I wanted to point out a couple of things as you're having this discussion.
Mhm.
One is, under the currently proposed design or the approved the Creekside Territory TIF, they're actually adding 27 additional lots in that one to the CSTS. The revised design we're talking about adds 39. So we're only talking about a difference of up to 12 lots. So it's a fairly, it's not, I just want to make sure we knew we weren't adding 40 lots to the system. We were just expanding on what was approved.
Yeah.
That actually started because some of the capacity, there was residual capacity even in the 27 lots for the proposal or the improvements that were needed to accommodate the 27. So we took a stab at that or took a look at that and said, well, we can actually get more than 27 lots to fit under what the PCA requirements would be. Then I can't remember what the total number was. Then we did this layout, came up with 39 and said, well, we only have to change a little bit more to get to 39. A little
Sure.
bit we have to jump through. I just want to make sure when you're talking through this, you understand that there was 27 approved previously. We're only going to add a few more to that.
Right.
Everything else you're saying is true.
Yeah.
The other thing with
So how would you address the other things that I was saying? As far as, do we have, between you and the HOA and this next door that was originally part of this, do you have enough spare room to cover this thing for another, say, another 50 or 60 years?
Yeah, we believe so. There, the drain field itself, so there's really three pieces that go into it. There's these
Right.
treatment pods and the dosage or septic tanks and the drain field. The drain field actually is designed for about twice the capacity that this system is gonna deliver, even with the additional lines. So,
Okay, and what is and for the drain field though, what is, because you can't keep using the same landowner, what is what's the expected life expectancy of the drain field portion of it? So,
you know, I don't actually know what the design life of that was. You know, historically with pre-treatment pods and septic tanks, it can go on forever. Usually when a septic system is failing, it's because something happened on the filtration system going into it. So as long as everything's working properly and it's basically just a effluent water that's getting evaporated or infiltrated, that's, you know, being treated by the drain field themselves, the rest of it's fairly mechanical. Same thing with your home systems. If you're flushing too much water through your home system.
no, I understand completely how they work.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that also with that, typically when I have, you know, when I'm granted a permit, I have to have additional spare
Yeah.
space for future legs. And that's a lot that has to do with it, is I have to have some fresh ground to put that in that's not impacting another well. So that's why I'm asking is like, are we thinking about, because this is a permanent solution. This is not, it's not like they're going to get sewer someday in the future. And we allow a higher density, we continue to allow higher density to kind of pack into that. Are we creating another addition like we have in a couple of the additions here where we're now facing a problem with putting sewer into?
So I think the big difference between this system and a home system is the operator and the regulation that goes into it. That's why you've got all the pre-treatment pods
Sure.
and those things that go into it, and you have a full-time operator and all the testing and stuff that goes with it. So the drain fields themselves should last forever, as long as everything's being done correctly. It's like anything else, if you take good care of it, it's gonna go on forever. It's sand beds and so forth to drain. The only thing that may need to be replaced or upgraded in the future, in theory, would be those pre-treatment pods, dosage tanks. And you're probably more likely to have a change in regulation that requires an update to the system than you are to have some element of the system fail that needs to be adjusted.
Okay. So in your proposal, then on these maps, the orange lots are essentially all of them are under 2.5 acres?
There's actually
Or
4 or 5 of them that are over 2.5 acres.
those are the ones to the right on the?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, the rest are under the 2.5. They're,
Yeah, some are close. If you look at 2.1,
yeah.
2.6, there's some
So
that
they're
are there
close.
too.
yeah,
Yeah,
And so for example, if there became an issue, let's say we had a capacity issue that we couldn't financially overcome because the PCA was gonna require too much. Let's say we got 34 connections and not 39, for whatever reason, flow or any other issue that we're going through this process. Yeah, there's 4 lots that we could in theory remove from the system because they're over 2.5 acres, put septics on, them, assuming those pass and have individual sewer, septic systems. You know, there's a sewer line in the street, so we hope that doesn't happen. It would be a little redundant to have both out there, but we do have some flexibility and we will work through whatever we need to with the PCA and the city's consultant and things like that to get that straightened out.
Councilmember, sorry, I think it's a good question you asked, and I think the overarching answer to that is, I don't believe the MPCA will permit an expansion to the system unless they know it goes on in perpetuity.
Okay.
They're very cautious that way. That permit that this operates under, I remember from way back when Gary first brought this to the table and all those meetings. It's built robust and the fields were built for almost the whole, it might be, I can't say for sure, the whole site, and it's not getting that, and that's what makes it inefficient. You know, we got big 8-cylinder motor, we're running on a little small carburetor. If we get it to capacity, that reserve capacity has to be there. I believe also the MPCA won't approve it. If there isn't a place for replacement mounts, I don't believe they'll approve it.
well, they all make mistakes too. You know,
Yeah.
we just don't want one to happen, you know? So,
Safety relief.
yeah,
You know, or factors of safety built into it. So
Mhm.
one of the things is they like to keep the flow at like 70%, the design flow and things like that. So there's kind of safety factor on safety factor. Is it,
Yeah.
you know, is there a guarantee? No, but at the end of the day, you rebuild those drain fields in place as opposed to finding a different location for it.
yeah. I mean, it just kind of, what I look at is we're going to be requiring, something that's no longer owned a different property essentially, and a different property, whether we own an easement's an easement, we can use it differently, but we're going to be asking them to essentially take on this. And then the problem is, if there is a failure here, it becomes really their problem, because it's all their land. Or, yeah, I mean, it's our problem too, but we don't want that, but we also want,
I don't believe the MPCA would have given you the original permit. The permit operate the CSDS was subject to a homeowners association approval.
Agreed.
Alterations. and-
Agreed.
You guys, I believe, drive the boat.
We do,
Mhm.
yeah.
And really, why we're proposing this is because it's right there. I've sat through many meetings here for the last 15, 16 years with the people in the territories complaining their fees are so high. And
Correct.
The reason they get is because it's not at capacity.
It's not an efficient operation. It doesn't have all of the rest of the pieces on it.
Get that.
All right, Leroy.
Mayor, back when the system was proposed, I thought it was crazy when they came in with the 5 bedrooms per unit for the system, but and we've never operated at 50%, I don't think, of the thing.
No. The 2 years ago, we fired up the last set of mounds.
Yep.
That had not been fired up,
Right.
or not
Right.
used, and so there's a rotation that the operator runs them in. This one actually runs really well. It runs really well at what it is.
And it
So,
does-
in the end, I think that the answer to your questions is that's part of the investigation into the next steps. We aren't
Right.
gonna have that answer.
Well,
tonight.
no, I understand that.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm asking the questions. I
Mhm.
guess the other one would be, I think it would be really nice if somebody could do some calculations and tell us, and give at least an estimate of how much people are saving, or what the city saves.
Ours was just simple. Like,
Yeah.
Just real down and dirty math. 137 houses on the system. It costs $92 a month right now. Multiply that out now, divide it by a bigger number, because we're gonna have 39 more houses on it. Should drop at about $20 to $25 per month.
It's a significant savings for the other people.
But it is when it doesn't seem like much for one house, but you multiply it by 137, then you multiply it by 12 months, then
Mhm.
multiply that by 10 years. Over 10 years, it's $300,000 for the savings.
Well, it's
Mhm.
it's important to each
And
homeowner that's actually in the system.
Yeah.
That would replace a 5.
Right.
Well, yeah,
Right.
council member, and it goes to your question about replacements and having to fix things. If we have more people on the system, the capitalization of replacing something gets divided by a bigger number.
Mhm.
So it's not as hurtful. But all those things are fair, and those are good questions. We have to answer all of them, but it takes a lot of time and money to get through all that.
Right.
And I didn't want to march down that path. We went down a little ways, but we thought we better ask. I found over the years, if I keep the city councils involved, or all the way, it just works better.
Well, to switch directions on that. What is the excess capacity? Could you put more into that system in your design?
More than what we're
Yeah,
proposing.
yeah.
Probably not. We're gonna get near that 70% of the design flow for the drain field, so.
Okay.
If we went any higher than what we're proposing, likely you'd start talking about an expansion of the drain fields themselves, which. I would
Which
think
they
is
don't
probably
want to do.
not, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
We were trying to deal with the mechanical end of it, but the
Right.
capacity.
so what you're proposing is you're thinking at this point that you're essentially maxing it out with a little bit of an excess
Yeah,
capacity.
Yeah, maxing it out probably isn't the right term, because they like to keep the flow at 70% of the.
Well,
design
but
flow.
you're bringing it up to the maximum efficiency,
Yeah.
safety
It's a desired-
factor that
yeah,
you
the
probably
safety
have.
factor by the
Okay.
PCA.
All right, Leroy,
Thank
you have
you.
some thoughts.
I like the design a lot. What I like is we're not crossing the creek with the septic, which
The
could
sewer
be a
pipe.
problem. So,
It could end up being problems for
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
in the winter when it's rains.
Abe, I know you saw this last week at planning commission. Any other additional thoughts since then?
Nope.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, and just, I got a couple of comments, generally in favor of the, design change. I do really like that layout. And I think, moving ahead to investigating that steps would be prudent. There got three things really honestly, two things. And I know Ted, we've talked about that dam a little bit and I know. No, you're good. Tim's more important than that.
I tend to decide we should open another.
Yeah, right. Like, let's talk about the dam.
We purposely didn't bring that up yet, and we're still trying to figure out.
100%. And I'm not gonna ask you to dig in the details on it. Again, we've talked about it. I just wanted the awareness of it that we do need to reconcile what to do with the dam. What the long-term operation of that looks like and easements so that we have maintenance access to that in the future. The other thing that I'd like to consider is just thinking about, and this is just more of a sanity check on the two south cul-de-sacs, one on the west and one on the east. Okay, if you look at those and look at the surrounding properties outside of those. I don't remember, Leroy, do you remember, why did we, on the one on the west, when Excelsior Group came back to us and we decided not to have that connect to Glenwood?
Here.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that one was, Glenwood has a temporary cul-de-sac with an easement that goes to the border there. Okay, and I'm not saying it should, I just would like a sanity check on that. And just have review it with Shane and review it with staff and just make sure that that is the right way to do that, but
I think one
because
was they have that spike strip along there and they didn't want to do away with it. Was one thing.
that's actually, yeah,
Who is this picture?
it,
You know?
yeah, it doesn't, it's fine. Your red line is drawn in the wrong place, so it looks like there is.
No, but
There is one south of there. Anyways,
goes all the way up.
sanity check on that one, please.
What I think it gets to be, Chris, just looking at it from a design.
Yeah,
It's gonna connect south of that, I don't know the name of the street, going
Sundance.
to Citizens Alliance Bank, go.
Right.
Large Property, it's gonna connect there, to connect at Glenwood too, and also at 210, gets to be a little redundant.
Ted, and if that is, that is, I'm not saying that it should or shouldn't, I would just like, I just like us to pay attention to that one before we make it permanent, right?
Yeah.
The other one is on the other side. Sorry, did you have Tim something
I
there?
was just gonna say, I think that's like script that's shown on here, that's an easement in favor of the territory, because I think there's a well back there.
Yeah, there's so a lot of, well, quite a few of the
Yeah.
wells are in the wrong places.
Mhm.
Territory, we're gonna have to cap them.
Well, be careful, some of those might be test wells for the,
Yeah, we got that too, but
so the other one on the other side, on the east side of that one, that same cul-de-sac, I'd like another look at that. If you look at Palomino Drive, comes up and there's a temporary cul-de-sac with an easement to the end of that property. If you look at what's shaded in from the ranch on the north, is expected to be a temporary cul-de-sac and an extension of the easement to the south. Does it make sense then that one would have a temporary cul-de-sac and a easement all the way to the end of the property too? I don't know. I'm not saying yes or no, but I just like that sanity check to happen there. Before we, yeah, you see that one ghosted in the north up in the ranch? Sure. And then you look at south at Palomino Drive and you see where the temporary cul-de-sac is. And it's got the easement to the north property line of that property. Yeah.
yeah, it stops like 1 10-acre lot short.
Mm-hmm. But if those 10-acre properties in the middle there, those are all 10-acre properties in the middle.
Yeah, so maybe we put the easement to the property.
Just let's take a look at that, please, and make sure that we're doing the right thing before we, right, 100%. Yeah, that's all I'm asking is as you're going through the process, if we take a look at those and connect with staff and make sure that we're good with those cul-de-sacs where they are. Other than that, no, the rest of it looks good.
Thank you all very much. Good conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, we'll be back at you.
All right, thanks you guys, appreciate it. All right, next up. You still, Leroy, you're up next on your speed limit sign.
Good, great.
Unless you want to keep talking about that.
No, that's fine. It's all good. I got a price from Safety Sign on a portable
Radar.
35-mile-an-hour sign to put in some of these neighborhoods that complain about the speed in the neighborhoods. Instead of having the county bring theirs out, set it up. This would mount right on a post. And we could move it to whichever neighborhood we need to move it to. And it came to $4,400 for that. Oh, we can set the speed. What we want, so. Just a thought, we could spend some of our.
Mind if I comment on this too? Traffic,
See, turn the
yeah,
microphone back on, please. You might have to hold the button down. There you go.
I was just gonna comment that I think they make one that actually records the speed limits for you as well.
Yeah.
I would do that, even if it's a little bit extra cost. So we actually just completed a statewide study on speed limits after the legislature changed the law recently, to be able to the Department of Transportation, but we found 0 instances where reducing the speed limit actually changed the speed of traffic, and in a lot of the studies. We actually found that there was only a perception of a problem that people weren't actually speeding, and then another piece of that was. The speed of the people that live there are funny.
That is number one answer.
You guys are a city and you're gonna want that data to say.
It came up before.
People are going 29 miles an hour.
Yep.
you know, So just food for thought.
No, I appreciate that, Tim, because we do have 2 permanent installed ones up on 170th Street. And I wish we would have bought the ones that recorded the data because it would be nice to know. I mean, I can stand there and watch it. And see the people going by and the people that are in front of me going what their speed is, but to pull all that data back together would have been awfully nice.
You need one with paintball.
I actually think that that's actually a good idea. If we're gonna spend the money to do that, how much more would something like that cost? To give us the data?
Addition,
I think the 2 that we put on 170th,
Mhm.
they were 11,000 for the 2 of them. How much?
yeah, it was installed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Post
would
and
have
everything.
been
Permanent.
14 or 15,000 with the date,
Yeah,
if that comes.
so that
out.
was for 2, so you're talking about maybe 2,000 more.
maybe.
Something like that.
Again, so we've had those up for 3 years now.
Mhm.
So,
And it has reduced the speed over there.
What would the value of that data be?
so to the point of, as Tim was saying, what happens a lot, Jay, is when people will say, hey, people are driving really fast in my neighborhood, right?
Right.
So if we could measure that and tell the truth, maybe, because if you're standing still, have you ever seen a car drive by you
Yeah.
at 30 miles an hour? How fast does it feel like it's going? It feels like it's going pretty fast, right?
Mhm.
So there's a perception of what the speed is, and then there's the actual speed. So if you have that data, then you really understand, okay, do we have a problem with speed or not?
Right.
And then we can make decisions on enforcement and.
Yeah.
And pieces like that.
I feel that it's probably. We should probably research a little bit more on that and then bring that back and maybe put it on the agenda for next month to make a decision on that with.
Sure.
Yeah, I think an
Yeah.
additional, if Dominique, if you would also help us with understanding where we're at for our. We get a portion of the traffic tickets, so the funds come back to the city.
Is
And
that,
and that's
earmarked for that?
Yeah.
it has to be spent on something related to traffic safety.
All right.
So that's what we bought those other 2 signs with, was that funding.
Okay, that makes sense.
So part of our discussion then will end up being, if we're gonna use that funds to pay for it. And do we have sufficient funds? So once you come up with what the price is for one
Okay.
that saves the data. Let's get it to Dominique and we'll get it on a recommendation that's next.
So do you want a motion to table it for next?
We don't need to.
Okay.
We have a couple homework items for us. We don't need a motion for that.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Just remember one thing, I'm not,
yeah.
do we have anything in the budget for this? I mean, I know we can use some more funds from
Mhm.
enforcement, but what if we're short? Do we have anything set aside?
We do have $15,000 for street signs. So you could use that, the funding that. The mayor was talking about, so we do receive fine. Funds, and those are somewhat dedicated, so this past year. 2022, we received $7,048, and we don't really. Plan those out, I guess. So we would. Have those and then. We could extrapolate forward probably safely, though we'll have 7,000. So, yeah, we can look at it
Mhm.
in further detail, but it. It runs pretty consistent around that 6,000, 7,000 per year. And I would imagine, based on our spend on street signs, like last year we only spent 5,000. I don't know what we have planned for the coming year, but
We've got several that have been knocked down, snow related.
We're gonna
incidents.
get a few tonight.
Are the city signs a separate budget?
No, that is our.
That's
street
all part of
sign.
that same thing.
Yep, 15,000.
Okay.
Yep,
Right, could we also ask then that we have a little bit more information as far as what we really think is the true capacity of excess to be able to spend on this without going over?
so you want to know, like, what we're planning on spending,
Right,
you know, what we know we're gonna spend.
right. So we kind of have an idea of what we're projecting.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that we're not spending over that for the year. Otherwise, we might have to look at it and say, well, maybe we have to do that next year.
Yeah, we can kind of do you know, I think we have an idea of what we need to replace right now.
Okay,
Yeah. Mhm.
We've never gone over outside of our budget, so.
right,
Not on signs, yeah.
yeah,
You know, because you think about, so when we've done sign replacement projects before, where we've done whole neighborhoods and whole
right,
sections, you know.
We
Shoot,
broke it down over 4 years.
four ones, and each year was about $15,000 to $20,000. We're replacing hundreds of signs in that kind of
yeah,
money.
we're
So
not in need of having.
we're
to do
not
that right
replacing
now.
hundreds
No,
of signs this year, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're talking about maybe 10. maybe.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if the money's coming in, it'd be nice to be able to
Mhm.
use it on something like that. That would be good, but.
yeah,
I
because
just
that's
don't
a
wanna go
that's where
over
that
and
funding
spend
has to
more.
be dedicated to something in that area.
Right,
Mhm.
okay.
Unless you want to buy the police a new radar gun.
Well, depends on how many come past my curb.
Yeah. Well, the ones that are speeding towards your house would probably end up in your garage.
Exactly.
One last question too.
Yeah.
Now that we have two deputies,
Mhm.
when they weren't fielding, I mean, if they weren't. How do I word it?
If they were out there, and not for the whole time for 7 days a week, were we missing some? Do we expect an increase in?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so,
Okay.
because I actually, if you've looked at, I don't know if I get the, you know, look at the map every Sunday, the new pops up new map, and I think there's an increase in traffic stops. I haven't quantified it with looking and matching it up, but I see more of them on the map now. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They have been sitting on 27, so,
And 21,
yeah.
yeah, I've come over the hill and there's been Deputy Thurston sitting right there. Thankfully, the person next to me is going faster.
The speed limit that I waived.
Yeah. Just gotta have that one person going a little bit faster than you.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of doing that because, you know, when we have neighborhoods without sidewalks and kids are playing in the street, everything else.
Mhm.
You know, I think we have an extra duty to make sure that the streets are safe for them, because it doesn't matter. I mean, their impression of how fast a car is going. When they're standing still is really not relevant.
Mhm.
If they're out playing in the street, we want to slow them down.
They're not supposed to play in the street.
Yeah, well.
It's a playground sport.
All right. We're good with that then? So we got a little homework on that one.
Yep.
All right, so let's move on to it'll be 6.6. Adopt salary range for the city administrator position. Jay, you had some questions on that.
Yeah, I just have one comment. I know we worked on it in the workshop and we were kind of all agreeing with that, but I think at the same time that we were doing that, we were concerned that we weren't going to get a response. And from what I'm seeing from the reports, it sounds like we have a really, really good, strong response for that. Are we considering that we are probably offering too much? It's just a question. It's not. Just kind of wanted to throw that back out and have a quick discussion on that.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, isn't it a
Yeah.
little late? I mean, if we posted that, isn't that?
Okay, I mean, that's.
We could go from,
Pull it back.
we could go from 18 candidates back to 0 really quickly.
I think when we had
Yeah.
that working discussion, it was, are we gonna find candidates and then are we gonna find qualified candidates, right?
Yeah.
Right,
So out of the, in my opinion, out of the 19 or however many we have, how many are really truly qualified still?
we don't know that yet.
So.
Right.
No, I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm not saying anything else. I'm just saying, hey, let's just have,
Send it,
in the light of the fact that we've seen, sounds like we have a good success. We should look at that, just say, are we sure we want to go forward with that?
Well, I think all we know right now is that we have 18 or 19 candidates.
Right.
But we don't really know
What we have.
what we have until it's brought forth. I mean,
Yeah.
anybody can apply.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the number's really good and Liza sounds like in her
Yeah.
communication
Mhm.
that she's pleased with it, but I don't know any more than that. Maybe somebody else does, but
yeah, I think it'd be awfully hard to turn
Yeah.
backwards on that one right now. Because we did advertise it that way.
Yep.
And these people applied with expectations of that's where it was and the piece of vetting out for the qualified candidate, of course, comes later.
Mhm.
When we get to that point. I would be in favor of continuing on with the policy as we decided at workshop and, kind of directed staff to draft for us.
Okay.
Yep.
I think in light of that discussion, I would
Mhm.
say then I would make a motion that we pass it.
Okay,
I'll second.
perfect. I've got a motion and a second to adopt the salary range for the city administrator position. And a reminder, the salary range was from 116 to 141.
Actually, 145, there was a typo with that.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you. 116 to 145. Any other discussion? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. All right, next up, we've got the, sorry, just had to find my place. Approval of the claims listings. Tonight in our claims total, we have a total of, I can let Dominique present her area. Sorry.
Tonight the claims are 104,072.44. And a transfer is not required tonight.
Okay. Sounds good. So tonight in the packet for claims listings, we have $104,072.44. Anybody have any questions on those claims for tonight? If none, I'd take a motion to approve the claims listings for tonight.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Abe.
Second.
I'll take Jay on the second. So I've got a motion and a second to approve the claims listings for tonight for $104,072.44. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. With that, if nobody has anything else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Are we having any council member liaison?
Oh, I suppose we're
updates
gonna
or
do that.
council member reports, Mr. Mayor?
Anybody have anything tonight? It's gonna snow.
Nobody's called up complaining yet.
Just wait.
Just wait, right?
I think we'll have a lot of snow being deposited in the road and plowed across the roads.
Yeah, that's a reminder for those who are watching that.
Yep.
Plowing snow across the road and putting snow in the road is illegal. It's state statute. It's a misdemeanor.
Yep.
Um,
Well,
also remember,
we only have one person on 165th Street here. The other one's left, but I guess at least 25% of the people on 165th are in violation. So I'll just throw that out.
Okay.
well, there's a lot more other places in that too.
Absolutely. Yep.
It is a problem all over the place.
I did like that email going out today. That was.
Yeah.
great.
Yep.
That was
Yeah,
fantastic.
nice
Yeah.
job, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about that this morning. I thought with the snow, let's remind people about that and parking, no parking. That's important because I know we've had some neighborhoods where the snowplows have had to work around cars this winter and then the cars are gone and we get a complaint about snowplow in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a struggle. So, yeah.
They want to know why the plow picked up. the plow
A blade in front of their house, right?
Cause you can't have the car sit.
Yeah, exactly. Other than that, I don't think anything else. I think just drive safe on the roads and, again, understand that this is a multi-day snow event, so it will take some patience to get this cleared, so.
And they are gonna go out about 2 or 3 of them, so.
Perfect.
Wow.
All right, anybody has anything else? Now I'll take that motion to adjourn. Thanks, Brent, for the reminder.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Abe.
I'll second.
Thank you, Leroy. So I got a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.